This is Picks on Politics with Dan Mannarino.
And welcome to Picks on Politics, everybody. I am Dan Mannarino. So let's talk about new polling, showing where the race for New York City mayor stands as candidates hit the ground running in the general election. Here we go. The data from Siena College shows Zoran Mamdani with a significant lead, 44% of the vote, followed by Andrew Cuomo with 25%, Curtis Sliwa, right, with 12%, and then Eric Adams at 7% behind Curtis Sliwa, and then Jim Walden. So we're going to dive into those numbers more with our Henry Rossoff later in the show. But as Zoran Mamdani holds his steady lead, conversations are already happening now on the practicality of the Democratic nominee's bold ideas for the city. Mamdani vowing for a more affordable city for all, but that means squaring away big budget changes on the state and city level. When it comes to the city's finances, there will also be a new top financial guy next year. Mark Levine, the Democratic nominee for Comptroller, is going on the record. Mr. Levine, welcome back. Good to see you.
Thank you, Dan. Great to be here.
And so let me begin with you. You have no real challenger heading into November, so you're likely to be sworn in January as the new controller, right? So if elected, what is your first order of business when you're looking at where things stand right now in the way finances are being rolled out?
Dan, you know we have the worst affordability crisis in New York City history, driven by rents that are out of control. And I'm going to use the office of the Comptroller to tackle this. We have real tools, including investments in the pension fund to finance new affordable housing that might not get otherwise built. Also using the powers of audit and oversight to get HPD and the housing agencies building more housing quickly, more efficiently. We can do these things, move the needle on affordability. This is what I've done as borough president. I've made this my number one priority in my current role. We've got thousands of units moving, and I'm going to continue this fight as comptroller.
And it's also really the priority of the Democratic nominee for mayor right now, and that is Zoran Mamdani, right? Do you fully endorse Mamdani as the Democratic nominee?
Well, as I've said to you in the past, I'm a proud Democrat, proud to be on the Democratic slate citywide. I certainly support the Democratic slate. Yes, it includes Assemblymember Mamdani. And I'm also running to be comptroller, a job that must be totally independent from the mayor. And I will support the mayor when they're doing the right thing, and I will push back when that's necessary. That is what it means to be an independent comptroller.
Yeah, I mean, one of the jobs of the comptroller is, of course, to be a check and balance on the mayor's office, right? And at times put the two offices at odds. How do you foresee a relationship between the two of you?
Look, I think we share the goal of improving affordability in New York, and I am rooting for the next mayor to succeed as a proud New Yorker. I'm also going to make sure we have accountability. And that we push the city to be better when necessary, while calling out the successes when appropriate. That's what it means to be balanced and independent. This is the comptroller I'll be.
And you've seen some of the proposals that Mr. Mamdani wants to get done, right? Free buses, free childcare, freezing the rent. He wants to do this by raising taxes. So how do you see that playing out as the comptroller? Are you in favor of a tax raise for the rich?
Well, I certainly believe in progressive taxation. I think people who have done well in society need to pay their fair share. My preference always would be to see that on the national level, so we avoid states competing with each other. But in a crisis, I think everything needs to be on the table. I will say that I think there's a lot to be won by making New York City government more efficient. This is a city where it costs $5 million to build a park bathroom. There's just enormous waste and cost overruns in New York City government right now. And I think that even in tough fiscal times, we can do a lot more for New Yorkers by making the government more efficient.
Yeah, just on the tax issue, right? Because just so I'm clear, you want to see on the national level, but he's pitching it to Albany and Albany lawmakers. So are you in favor of that, specifically for the rich?
I would support it in the case of a real financial crisis.
Are we in one?
We might be. We might be. I think we face a difficult fiscal outlook in the coming year, which I'm happy to talk more about.
Yeah, are you talking about that because of what's happening in Washington, D.C. and some of the budget cuts that are coming to New York City with the Trump administration?
Look, it is direct financial hits from the Trump administration, which is taking money out of the city budget and the state budget. It is economic policies coming from the Trump White House, which are creating chaos with this insane tariff policy. It is a slowdown in tourism to New York, particularly international visitors.
Which we just saw in some numbers that came.
Yeah, we had to revise the expectation down 2 million. We're going to get 2 million fewer international visitors. Tons of jobs on the line there. And just a climate of uncertainty. And I talked to business leaders in the city who say, I don't know the cost of lumber in 6 weeks. I can't do investment in that climate. And we're seeing the impact already.
Let me break that down little by little, right?
Yeah.
And let's begin then with the economic climate the way it is and the uncertainty on many levels.
Yeah.
Is it the time then for something like free buses and free childcare and freezing the rent?
Look, it is the right goal to want free childcare in New York City. It's something I've called for. This should be a basic function of government, just the same way that free kindergarten.
But you got to pay for it.
Yes, and that's going to be a challenge in this fiscal climate, but not impossible. I think if we can find savings in the broader city government, in a city government which has a budget of $115 billion, if there's support from the state and federal government, that may be tough in this climate. Mm-hmm. But I think the goal of making New York more affordable for working families is one that I wholeheartedly endorse, and I'll work with the next mayor to achieve.
The goals, though, that he's pitching, and the affordability things that you're talking about, the money has to come from somewhere. And you are the financial officer now, the CEO of the finances for the city, right? Do you think the income needs to come from somewhere, or the way the budget currently looks, you have enough money to do some of these things?
Yes. Look, we want a growing economy first and foremost. We want this to be a city where businesses are investing and growing and hiring, because that creates more tax revenue that we can use for social programs to support people in need, people on the margins, and create opportunity for them. I think we also need a city government which is much more efficient and needs to be modernized. There we can find probably billions in savings over time. And yes, ultimately, we need to consider increasing taxes, particularly if we're in desperate financial straits. So all that has to be on the table.
You know, looming kind of over all of this is President Donald Trump, who has already clawed back money from New York City. We saw that play out. You are taking over for somebody who fought to get that money back. You vowed to fight President Trump's budget cuts. How would you fight back?
Yeah, look, this is bad. We've already got cuts to public health. We're seeing cuts to housing, to hospital care. It's hitting New York hard, and the city government's going to have to plug a lot of those holes. It's why I called for increasing our reserve funding in this budget so that we have a cushion to fill in gaps for critical services.
Did they do that enough?
They did not. They did not. I'm very disappointed in that. Leaves us with less tools to take on the cuts ahead. We're going to work with our congressional allies to fight these cuts in Washington. And I think ultimately the comptroller should have the independent power to sue when the president does things that are blatantly illegal, like he did when he clawed $80 million out of a city bank account, money that we had already had a contract for and already spent. So I'm going to fight back on every front to protect the finances of the city.
Yeah, and lawsuits can certainly slow down the process, right? Yes. But that could just delay the inevitable of him taking money back. In this case, it actually didn't play out the way he wanted it to. The city got the money back. So your plan is lawsuits.
That's one of the tools.
Yeah.
Obviously, we need political change in Washington. It's critical that we take back the House a year from now, and we need to support our current House and Senate leadership in fighting these cuts.
Let me ask you that, because this is maybe not outside the purview of the comptroller, but obviously getting back the House is a topic of conversation that's playing around the country right now. Are you in favor of redrawing the lines in New York if what plays out in Texas goes through?
You have to fight fire with fire. We never asked for mid-decade redistricting. This is a fight started by extreme MAGA partisans in Texas. But in a world in which they take those extraordinary measures, I think blue states like New York absolutely must. And I want to call out Assemblymember Lasher and Senator Janaris, who put forward a plan for New York to do that. A little more complicated here. It requires a constitutional change.
Right.
But we can't unilaterally disarm. The stakes are too high.
And you mentioned the cost of goods, right? And an increase in price of goods that could come from the tariffs. So if you're a comptroller, how do you battle that when it's playing out in real time?
How do you battle
the tariffs and the increase of cost of goods to get businesses not to shut down, the mom and pop shops not to close? Is there something that the office of a comptroller can do in infusing money into some of these small businesses?
In the nonprofit sector, which is a huge component of the economy, when the federal government is slowing down support or canceling grants as they have been, the least the city can do is pay out its own contracts faster. We have been scandalously slow to pay nonprofits for work they've already done. to the tune of billions of dollars. It's bringing the nonprofit sector to its knees. This is an area I talked a lot about in the primary. This will be a top priority for me. Comptroller can help move the needle on this. I think more broadly, we can try and compensate for challenges from Washington by making New York City itself a more hospitable environment to start a small business in, by reducing red tape and fines. The number of agencies you have to get approval from if you want to sell a gallon of milk in a corner store in New York City is absolutely beyond belief. And if we can reduce those barriers, I think it will help compensate for the challenges coming from Washington.
Really good conversation. I appreciate you coming on. Can you settle a debate for me? Is it Comptroller or Controller?
Wow. I'm going with Comptroller, but we don't judge here.
Yeah, okay. I just, because I hear both. I'm going to say both are right.
You can also just call me Mark.
Good to see you, all right?